Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure today to talk with John from IBM on cloud and cloud-related movements. My name is Anurag Rana. I'm a research analyst with Bloomberg Intelligence, Bloomberg's in-house research arm. I cover most of the large-cap technology companies here, such as Apple, IBM, Microsoft, and a bunch of others. And one of the things we wanted to talk today was dive deep into and understand what are some of the major trends that are transforming the technology industry. So with that, let me introduce John Duigenan.
Hi, everyone. It's John Duigenan from IBM. I'm the Global CTO for Financial Services based here in New York City. IBM Distinguished Engineer and a technologist working with all of our financial services clients.
Thanks, John. So one of the things that are, the most important things that are happening right now, I would say it started off probably 10, 15, 20 years ago, is the slow shift to the cloud, and then, it was all bundled towards under the umbrella of digital transformation. But last year, something unique happened, and we just saw an acceleration in spending. So let me first, pass it along to you and say, can you give a little bit of history of what happened, how this thing evolved, and what you saw last year?
Well, I think almost everyone in the world experienced it some way or other because of the pandemic. In financial services, clients of every kind tried to contact their institutions to make special arrangements because of the pandemic, and they struggled. Institutions struggled to service clients, clients struggled to connect. That triggered the biggest transformation initiatives, digital transformation initiative we've ever seen, and arguably accelerated the rate and pace, by up to 10 times where clients had been up until that point.
So one of the things that we observed last year, that initially there was a massive spend going into communications products or security products or e-commerce software. But since then, we have seen there's a lot more interest in modernizing internal IT architectures and things like that. So every time I hear the word cloud, people have different definitions of it, whether it's so when you talk to your clients, what's kind of their strategy when they look at cloud assets? How are they thinking about it?
You're absolutely right, Anurag. So most of the existing institutions have, in many cases, up to 50-year-old core systems. They want those core systems to participate in the digital transformation, to make the core systems available across new channels and new ways of delivering service to clients. That's been traditionally very tough without doing massive code rewrites. The opportunity for hybrid cloud makes available new ways of working, such as creating platform ecosystems of code that is infused by rich capabilities exposed through APIs and microservices, containerization technologies that standardize the way that software platforms are deployed, and create capabilities for availability, resiliency, and scalability. And underpinning all of that is the desire to run those workloads any place, lots on-prem, but also leverage the public cloud and do so with great consistency. So every client, one way or another, is striving to avoid the disruption by making systems available in the new fintech ecosystems, modernize the existing legacy, and support that entire digital transformation effort of servicing clients across new ways and reducing the cost of operations.
So one of the ways we have thought about is, either you're a cloud-born company, you started off writing code on the cloud, so you kind of are already there. But, our research suggests that bulk of IT spending is controlled by all the companies that have been in existence prior to the cloud era, and they control, whatever, the $1.5 to $2 trillion of spending out there. So if I'm a legacy bank, or if I'm an older bank, and I have a mortgage system that I've been using for a while, what options do I have if I need to move that over to the public cloud? Or for that matter, why should I even bother moving it to the public cloud? What are some of the advantages would it be for me to use those resources?
Well, I think you hit on a very key set of questions there. There's more than one question in there. But when we think about why, how are clients thinking about cloud, and how is IBM thinking about clouds, we're not necessarily thinking about it purely as a destination where we run work. We think of it so much more than that, because to think about it purely as a location is a very narrow definition. So we think about it, for example, as a way of working. We think about it as being underpinned by open technologies, such as containerizations. APIs and microservices underpin hybrid cloud, as I mentioned, because they build the bridge both to the outside world, but both with the way that existing core systems can speak into or be connected to a hybrid cloud environment. And another way in which IBM thinks about hybrid cloud connects data transformation and API. We see almost every client that we work with, and we're working with many clients on exactly these types of transformation. We have a major bank working with us on containerizing a huge amount of their existing legacy estate to bring it into the hybrid cloud world and take advantage of that consistent operating model that spans any cloud destination. Another reason, the operating model is a huge driver here, because if I use 4 different clouds and have 4 different ways of working, arguably I probably have 4x the expenditure on my operations, on my security operations, and on maintaining my software deployment lifecycle. And so creating that consistency across cloud destinations, both the way that we deliver code and the way that we operate and secure, is crucial for clients. And hybrid helps, as I sort of close out the thought here, if embracing public cloud requires me to move a whole bunch of very sensitive or private data into that cloud, that's often a huge struggle for clients because of regulation, because of their concerns about exposure, potential exposure and data loss. And so another reason why hybrid cloud is crucial is because rather than bringing or taking their data to the cloud, we want to bring cloud services to the data, to the existing environments.
Can you, in a quick or an easier way, tell me that, again, with that same example, if I'm running that mortgage application, what are the steps that you take to go from one side to the other so that I can use some resources on the public cloud? How do you go about doing that?
Sure thing. It's a gradual process. And the way that we typically start is by looking at the existing applications. Those applications, we often call them monoliths, Anurag, because of the way that they were designed many years ago. We look for ways to compartmentalize and open the functions within those monolithic applications, typically by looking for the business transactions within them. Once we find business transactions, what we want to do is expose an API that enables us to call that business transaction from an external code. Then typically we create new code with new functions and deploy that into a hybrid cloud ecosystem like Red Hat OpenShift, and have that new code call the existing business transactions. That's a coexistence approach, which is extremely popular with clients. And the reason being is it's a gentle point of entry. Doing a large rip and replace of an existing core system can cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And arguably, what do you get by having done that, other than you spent a ton of money just to stand still? And the name of the game for our clients is avoiding the disruptors and being competitive and being able to use what they have today to deliver new functions. So that generally is the continuum that we start on. And as we add new functions, we tend to add those within the new hybrid cloud code base, but all the while calling back to the core system to write transactions. And that's a very typical approach that IBM services or our ecosystem partners would use.
So we have been, talking about hybrid for a while, and I personally am fairly optimistic about its potential. But one of the pushbacks I get a lot is that, recently there was a very massive security breach on-premise environment, which was done through, weaknesses that are there. So then the question comes in, why not just leave this application on the side and then rewrite the application in a cloud native way, and then not try to bridge the gap between the two, because one is leading to malware getting from from an on-premise environment to the cloud environment.
Well, you're touching on a super important topic, Anurag. Cybersecurity and managing the threats is top of mind for any company in financial services. Doesn't matter who they are, from the largest players to the smallest, newest fintech. Security needs to be at the heart of everything they do. The IBM X-Force, which is our security group, published the threat intelligence report earlier this year, and it contained two fascinating insights. Firstly, malware is everywhere, and so malware is introducing threats both into on-prem code and cloud environments, public cloud environments. It doesn't matter where, the malware is there, and it needs to be found. And so how you do that is one piece of this. The second finding was that misconfiguration is everywhere, on-prem environments and especially public cloud environments. Misconfiguration of basic things like network settings, authorization settings. And as an example, a very profound example, IBM, of course, does penetration testing as part of our security services. In every single penetration test we did with clients recently, we found basic configuration errors, which is stark. And typically those basic configuration errors were user IDs and passwords that were not properly set for services that are intended to protect client data. That's very, very concerning. And so being able to find those issues is crucial. It's part of how IBM helps clients with our managed security services, our zero trust software frameworks, and helping clients at every step of the security journey.
So within the financial services community, is there one particular subsegment that is embracing this faster than the others? Commercial banks, investment banks, retail banks. Who's coming? Who's really at the forefront, and which are the ones that are saying, you know what, I'm going to take my time to port over these applications?
I think the tidal wave started with consumer banking, because there was an expectation about how banks deliver services, and especially through mobile channels and conversational AI channels. And so that drove necessary transformation. But I'm equally working with every element of capital markets, corporate banking, brokerage, you name it, private banking, every domain of banking and financial services and insurance are engaged in the transformation journey, because everyone knows they have to do it at this point, and everyone wants the benefits. Everyone needs the benefits of a hybrid cloud approach. That's been fairly well proven at this point.
Typically, what would you say would be their personal, just in an average cloud penetration rates right now? If you look at some of the larger banks globally, where would you put that number? Somewhere, any rough estimate? 5% penetrated, 10%, 20%?
Less than 5% in production. Less than 5% in production. Massive amounts of experimentation. Massive amounts of desire, but in production, less than 5%. You can, and there are notable exceptions of firms that are doing this very assertively, but most sprawling mainstream firms have been way less aggressive due to regulatory concerns, and primarily regulatory concerns. It's not a lack of appetite, but the concerns around risks have not only dampened the brakes a tiny bit on public cloud adoption, but also reinforced the need to bring the cloud into existing environments through hybrid technologies.
Got it. That's really fascinating. This has been a very, very interesting session, John. Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to talking to you again.
It's great to meet you. Have a great conference, everybody.